Hello. All right, I'm going to give you another very important video that you need to know. You may have heard that the former President Donald Trump is being prosecuted by Jack Smith. And Jack Smith had recently asked the Supreme Court to rule on the issue of presidential immunity. And he actually asked for the appeals court to be skipped. And so typically, you start at the district court, then you go to the appellate court, and then maybe you get to go to the Supreme Court. Jack Smith skipped the Court of Appeals and went straight from the district court to the Supreme Court. And that happened by what's called writ of certiorari. In other words, there's some certain cases where the Supreme Court has to hear the case. They're very few and far between. Most of the time, the Supreme Court hears cases, it's because they choose the cases. Obviously, this particular one was not. And I'm going to show you what they wrote right there in a second. But very interesting strategy. There is actually a statute and legal basis to skip the Court of Appeals, which Jack Smith cited in his petition for writ of certiorari. And remember, the whole reason this is happening is because of presidential immunity. The former president's lawyers are arguing that he's immune from both civil and criminal liability, or to be prosecuted while he's in office. That's one of his defenses. Now, it may take up until the time when he may be convicted, and then he takes an appeal for that defense to play out and have decisions made on it. I think that one of the justifications, now the Supreme Court didn't give, in fact, let me show you this real quick. They didn't give any reasons, right? Sometimes you'll see an opinion written and blah blah. It's really just this, right? Here, let me see if I can zoom in for you. It literally just says the petition for writ of certiorari before judgment is denied. No reasoning, but I could give you a good reason, right? It's called an advisory opinion. Now, I think that what's an advisory opinion? And so advisory opinion is when you ask a judge or a court to sort of tell you how they're going to decide something before there's actually a matter in controversy. In the law, we call this justiciability, meaning there's, the courts don't want to answer hypothetical questions. They want to decide things with actual facts, actual people, actual parties that have actual disputes against each other, rather than say, well, hypothetically, if this were this, because I think part of the reason for that is that could just go on forever, right? If you open that can of worms, then you can just ask courts for advisory opinions, and then people, so that I can see the reason for that. Not giving advisory opinions. I think it also would clog the court system and other kinds of things like that. But so in this case, what they're basically saying, those words here are significant. Before judgment, it's really just before judgment, right? So what they're saying is, listen, if you want us to look at this, you need to go all the way to trial, get a judgment, and then it needs to be appealed, and then it probably needs to go to the Court of Appeals, and then you can ask us to review it, and then maybe we will review it if something doesn't happen by then. That's just my opinion on probably why it is, because obviously this is a significant matter. And it involves, this could be one of the most important Supreme Court cases ever decided, in my opinion. Because, if Donald Trump gets elected and he, is being prosecuted, maybe he pardons himself, maybe he gets determined to be immune, maybe he puts someone in the Attorney General's office, they dismiss these charges, again, he pardons himself. There's a lot of stuff that could go on here. So it is a very interesting. Thank God for the Supreme Court. Thank God for separation of powers, if I do say so. Remember, separation of powers is why we don't have this. We say the people who decide how to interpret the law are different than people who enforce the law, and this is exactly a good reason. Because if they were the same people, then it would be Joe Biden deciding whether Trump has immunity. Obviously, you wouldn't want that, would you? So what this means is that Jack Smith will have to take his case to trial, see what happens, and then Trump will argue that he's immune, and then this all will maybe play out sometime. Maybe next year, maybe the year after that, after May, who knows? And then, but for now, you can see they didn't even care enough to give an opinion. They just said, nope, your request is denied. Thank you very much. Please subscribe, and thanks for watching.